On the state of regional integration, and joining me now from Arusha is the Secretary General of the East African Community. Her name, Veronica Nduva. Thank you for joining me this evening, Veronica. I see you're wearing a Uganda jersey. I assume you watched the game, the CHAN game between Uganda and Senegal.
Sure. No, thanks, Olive, for having me. And yes, I did watch the game with Senegal. And sadly, I was rooting for Uganda Cranes, as you can see. And I thought they will be our saving grace. But sadly, of course, Senegal took it with one goal. But, Olive, if you watch that game, Uganda had better ball possession, more shots on target, less fouls. So, yeah, we live to fight another day.
All right. And I'm curious, nonetheless, even though Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania have been bundled out of the semi-finals, so to speak, now as we move into the semis, is this, the sort of scenario you envision when we talk about regional integration? Because you'll have Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania co-hosting what is dubbed the Pamoja CHAN 2024.
Yes, absolutely. You're very right, Olive. This showcases that our integration has so many facets to it. When we said Pamoja, that's very aligned with what we believe. One people, one destiny. This tournament, the CHAN tournament, has really showcased a lot of things. Number one, that Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania have their best foot forward in terms of hosting, state-of-the-art infrastructure. We've really invested in our stadiums. Then, most importantly, look at the fan base, that the live that came out from our fans across board, that is something that we celebrate, umoja wetu, pamoja wetu, and the best foot forward, because even as we look forward to hosting AFCON, we've really learned a number of lessons, and we've really gone far. It's such a long time, I think, for Kenya from 1997, perhaps, I'm not very sure. The same for Taifa Stars, for Uganda Cranes. So we've really done well, and there's been some exciting moments that we've all witnessed, and really a big exemplary of what integration can do.
All right. There's been a bit of a back and forth online, for example, between Kenya and Tanzania. Did you find yourself caught in the middle because you're Kenyan, but you're based in Arusha representing the EAC?
Good thing none of the matches were at the same time. I was watching Harambee Stars, and I saw that penalty that caused the heartbreak. And then after that, we went and watched Tanzania fighting it out with Morocco, and then today Senegal. I think that this rivalry that you're talking about, I want to look at it. In Swahili, we say ucheshi, kutania, because it's the same thing we see with Yanga and Simba. It's the same thing we see with Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards. So for me, I think there is a message here. How about we start our own Premier League, within East Africa? The same way we are always saying, Arsenal, Man U, Manchester. How about we start this whole Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and then, of course, the other East African states. So I took it in good faith. It's the normal sportsmanship and the fun, just banter and just making sure that everything is lively. So I think it was really hilarious. And the online, no, I didn't get caught in between, because I can choose to be who I want to be. Today I'm wearing Uganda t-shirt. Tomorrow I could wear the Tanzanian one. So it doesn't really matter, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm really excited at what I saw with our fans across. The spirit of East African came alive in a big way.
Was the Secretariat involved in any way in the bid?
Of course, for us, because sports is one of, when we look at our pillars, and remember, East Africa community is established on the premise of free movement of people, goods, and services. And we have all these establishing laws and protocols. And some of the protocols talk about our cultural integration, which goes into issues like arts and sports and music and culture. And for me, this bid is the center of East African community. community. I had an opportunity to, for instance, go to Uganda when the CHAN tournament was being launched by His Excellency, the President of Uganda, Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and he talked about that this is the spirit of East Africa that we've always had. And so, yes, we were involved. We didn't have the practical roles of the negotiations, but it's been a joint bid. It's Pamoja. It's aligned to our one people, one destiny mantra.
All right. So, of course, the CHAN tournament takes place, and this rivalry, so to speak, I know you've taken it in a good-natured fashion, but it does come on the backdrop of complaints from Kenya of Tanzania imposing non-tariff and tariff barriers, because you have talked about freedom of movement and goods. You know, could it also be informed by something underlying?
No, Olive, I wouldn't say that. Let me frame it this way. Wherever there are trading blocks, remember EAC is a regional economic community. It's not the only one. In Africa, we have several. We have COMESA, we have SADC, we have ECOWAS. We have others that are outside the country, outside the continent, so to speak. The ASEANs in Latin America. We have, of course, the big one that everyone knows, the European Union. And all at any one time where there is trade, there will always be issues that come out. So sometimes we have tariff barriers. So those are like the common external tariffs, what is liberalized, what is available, which is has jurisdiction and maybe the right protocols. But then there are also non-tariff barriers. So these are just other things like perhaps poor understanding, poor interpretation, perhaps traders going behind what has been achieved. So problems are there, and they are not unique to East African community. What matters is that are there existing mechanisms for resolving this? And yes, Olive, there are regional mechanisms, there are national mechanisms, and there are bilateral mechanisms. And that's really what you're calling about the sibling rivalry is the same thing that I would say it is not new. Over the years, the East African community has embraced and dealt with issues as they come up. So we've even seen reduction of NTBs, non-tariff barriers to trade, but also tariff. Why? Because we have existing structures. For instance, apart from the summit, which is the heads of state, we have the Council of Ministers, and then we have the sectoral councils. With regards to trade, we have the Sectoral Council on Trade, Investment and Finance that discusses these issues over time and reaches conclusions. And this is no different. It's not unique to Kenya. It's not unique to Tanzania. Sometimes it's between Kenya and Uganda. It could be between Uganda and Tanzania. It could even be between South Sudan and Uganda and Rwanda. But the most important thing is, are there mechanisms to resolve this? And the answer is yes. So in this particular case, it's not any different that we have mechanisms and we've activated those mechanisms.
Can you tell us at what level, you've mentioned different levels of mechanisms it's being handled at, and if there has been headway made? Because those were some serious allegations or claims made that Tanzania is undermining the Common Market Protocol.
Sure. Let me say this, Olive. Let me first of all back up a little bit and say this. Data speaks, and the numbers are there to suggest that intra-EAC trade has grown. There's been a 15% growth of intra-EAC trade from 2012, 2015, all the way to 2024. We've seen continuous indication that numbers in trade have grown. We've also seen studies, independent studies, not conducted by the EAC, that place the EAC as one of the best performing RECs, especially with regards to economic integration. So when I say that the mechanisms are there, let me give an example. Last year, this was even before any of these issues that you're talking about were out in public domain. Last year, we had our 24th ordinary summit of the heads of state of the 8 countries. And one of the issues they discussed and had deep dive on was the non-tariff barriers to trade and other barriers. And they instructed the council that before the next summit, there is need to have a high-level discussion that will bring together private sector, will bring together the traders, and to discuss this issue. And I'm happy to note that this is going to happen. Secondly, even within my tenure as Secretary General, I have had several roundtables with the East African Business Council and the private sector associations just to hear from them what are the issues, what can we do, and we elevate this into policy platforms and solutions are found. Perhaps more specifically with the issue that you are flagging, when this matter came up, first of all, as a secretariat, we were able to look at what exactly is the issue. Are there issues of compliance? What does the Common Market Protocol say? And are the various actions taken by both countries in line or out of line? So that is one thing. But over and above that, the 2 countries, Kenya and Tanzania, just 2 weeks ago met and had a bilateral discussion with the trade officials and the officials from the East African ministries and really went through thrashing what are the issues. And I'm happy to know they made progress and they will be convening again in September. And they did so right here in Arusha. Aside from that, we call for an extraordinary session of the ministers of finance to look at what is it that the taxes we are seeing and what needs to be done. So allow me to just say that we are confident that with the existing mechanisms, the heads of state are engaging. When you talk to them, we know that phone calls have been made at various levels. We've seen the technical staff talking to each other and ironing out issues. As Secretariat, we've commissioned a study and working with other partners to see what exactly within the Common Market Protocol needs to be addressed and what are the underlying issues. So I remain optimistic that first of all, numbers suggest our intra-EAC trade is growing. Secondly, we have regional, national. We even have monitoring committees at national level that really monitor are there any tariff barriers or non-tariff barriers and report at regional level, and then they meet. So I remain confident that, yes, there are issues. Issues will often arise, but as long as we have existing mechanism. Number one, we have the commitment and the goodwill. And I would say without a shred of doubt that at the political level, at the highest level, our presidents are really committed to regional integration, whether it's economic, political, or whatever, and they have the long game. And they are tireless in their efforts to ensure that issues, though they may arise, they will always be resolved, Olive.
All right, Veronica, quickly, just as a last question, what then is the role of the East Africa Legislative Assembly? Because do they play a role in making sure that internal legislation, the national legislation, achieves the intent of the protocols as set out by the East African community?
Sure. Of course, as you are well aware, the EAC set out just in almost the same format as any government. We have right here the East African Court of Justice, the Secretariat, which is more akin to the executive, and then, of course, IALA, which is more of the legislative oversight, as you've said. And yes, rightly so, the Parliament carries out its oversight role. They engage with the Council of Ministers. They are able to point out where things they do not see as if things are going well, because they engage with the Mwananchi. They are the ones who are talking to our citizens. But over and above that, we have seen bills. Just last summit, the heads of state assented to a number of bills that have been developed by the IALA members. So what we need to see is more of at national level, the ratification, the implementation, the monitoring, the application, changes in national laws where it is required. But yes, certainly I see a lot of coherence between the various organs of the East African community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That is the Secretary General of the East African Community, Veronica Nduva. We stay watching.